Hello and welcome back to Jacqs Scraps. Today I am going to be sharing with you how to create a gatefold mini album cover, and I'll be using the lay flat cover method. So let's get started. If you recently watched my design team haul from Country Craft Creations, you know that I am going to be working with Simple Stories Summer Snapshots collection, and I decided to do a gatefold mini album, and I wanted to come on and do a separate video specifically for the cover so that you could make it ahead of time and be prepared for the actual mini album tutorial. Also, because I do have a video showing you how to use the lay flat cover method, this one is slightly different, and I thought it just might be easier to come on and share with you how to do a gatefold mini album cover rather than try to explain it between videos. So that's what we're doing today. First, I'm going to go over the chipboard pieces that you're going to need to make this album cover, and it will be a landscape style mini album. So you'll need one piece that measures 10 by 7. This is going to be the base of our mini album. You're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 5 by 7. These 2 pieces will be the front cover. Now I've actually already wrapped this one, but as you can see, it will be here on the front. The third piece of chipboard that you're going to need is one that measures 1.5 by 7, and you're going to need 2 of these. So these are going to be the spine pieces. You'll need 2 of these, 2 of the 5 by 7, which will be the front cover. And the large one is the base or the back cover. Now let's go over the cardstock that you're going to need to wrap all of your chipboard. For this, I'm going to be using white artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and I will have that and all of the other supplies linked down below in the description box. For your cover piece, you're going to need 1 piece of cardstock, and this should measure 12 by 9. Now you may already see that I have some score lines on here, but I use those as guidelines when I go to place my chipboard down on my cardstock. I put this into my scoreboard and I score 1 inch on all sides. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. Again, these are just guides to help me place my chipboard. For your front chipboard pieces, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock, and these will measure 7 by 9. Now, as you can see, I've already glued this down onto my cardstock, and this one I've actually already matted, as I showed you earlier. Some of that was just to save some time. For our last chipboard piece, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock, and these should measure 4.5 by 9. Now, when I go to create my guidelines for the spine, I score at 1.5, rotate, score at 1, rotate, score at 1.5, rotate, and score at 1. Now, I have a lay flat guide that I created, and I'll have that link down below for you. And what it does is it walks through all the steps to create a lay flat album cover, as well as to provide you the calculations on how to figure out how much cardstock do you need to wrap this chipboard. So that's a very handy tool to have, and like I mentioned, it'll be linked down below for you. But I'm going to go ahead, since we have the scoreboard out, to add my chipboard onto my cardstock. I'm using the score lines that I created as guides to know where to place down the chipboard. Makes it so much easier. I'm going to do the same with my other piece. Now I've just used score tape on the back of my chipboard. I know some people use wet adhesive, but for mini album covers, I prefer score tape. Again, I'm going to look for my guides and then just place my cardstock right where those are. It's so easy to do it that way. Now I'm going to be burnishing. I don't normally use white for an album cover, but since this was a summer album, I wanted to make it nice and light. I'm going to fold over on all of my sides. Now that we have this on and we've burnished really good, you want to fold over on all of the sides. When we do that, we get these little blocks in the corner, and we want to cut all of those out. So I cut just slightly in front of that crease that I just made, cutting out that corner. Okay? And you do that on all sides. Now some of these steps that I'm showing you here are in my first video. Okay, the next thing you want to do is fold over one of the sides, and we're going to make sure there's no little hitchhikers, is what I call them, or any cardstock that isn't needed. So you put your scissors right up against the edge, and I make a slight angle and do a cut. So you end up with this just very slight angled corner there. See right here, you can see. That's a little hitchhiker. So I just put my scissors up here, do a little angle, and cut that off. Now it's a nice, clean corner. So when we've done that side, fold this piece over and do the other side. You have to flip to get to the other side, so. Okay. Now that we've done it the long way, we're going to do it the short way and do the other sides. For your spine pieces only, at this stage, we're going to glue down the 1-inch flaps. You leave the 1.5-inch flaps until we add this onto our cover pieces. Just adding the glue around there and pressing that over. Burnish up close to the chipboard, just get it as flat as possible. Always start right in the middle, press the paper up against the chipboard, flatten it this way, and then I fold over. It's all part of training the paper. Now that's done. So I have my 2 spines all ready to go. So I folded on all the sides of my large cover piece. And I'm going to repeat that same process of going around and cutting out the 4 corners. The only difference between the front and back cover and the spine is that for the cover pieces, you can go ahead and glue all of them down. But for the spine pieces, you only glue down the top and the bottom. And again, that's only until we adhere all the pieces together. And I'm walking through these steps just so that you know, in case you haven't seen that other video yet. Okay, and now we glue down just like the other one. Now Now another way that you can do this to train the paper is to flip this over and run along the edge of the chipboard with your bone folder. I like doing that as well. It just helps when you go to fold your paper up, makes it a little bit easier. All right, we have our base chipboard ready, our two fronts, and our two spines. Now we're going to put it all together. Now for this, I am bringing out my scoreboard to help. I have my base cover. And I'm going to go along the edge of this to just really define where my chipboard is. Because what we'll be doing is add adhesive to the back of this and add it on to our base cover like this. Like that. Yep. So that's why you really want to define the edge of your chipboard, because that is a really good guide for when you go to lay this down. I'm just going to nestle it right up under there. Okay. So when we add adhesive, we're going to go from the edge of our chipboard about 1/4 of an inch down. I would not go any more than 1/8 of an inch down. If you get adhesive all up in here and you try to bend your cover, it's probably going to tear. And you don't want that. Okay, so let's take our spine piece. We're going to lift the base piece up, and we're going to put that right on top of where I just showed you. So you want to put them as close as possible. You're going to line up the two chipboard pieces. Hope you can see how that's lined up. Okay, let's flip this over and then burnish that really good. Okay, now I'm going to go over this side real good again. The reason I use my scoreboard is to help keep everything level. It's just really great for that, in case you were wondering. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive here again. Remember, keep it about 1/4 of an inch down from the edge of the chipboard. You get too close, just try again. Now we'll take our front cover and we're going to tuck this right up against our spine chipboard piece, just like we did the base piece. Now I'm going to scoot this out since it's hanging over my scoreboard. Everything was level. Yep. Looks good. I'm going to flip this over and burnish. Now really the only difference in making a gatefold from a regular mini album is of course that we have two spines. And even though I'm sure you could have figured it out, I just wanted to show you how to do it when you have two spines, in case there are some that are really new to crafting. So once you do that, we can actually fold this up a little bit and you'll see that you have part of your cover already created. Now we're going to repeat that same process on the other side. Now that we have all of our chipboard pieces attached, the next thing you want to do on the inside of the cover is to add an additional piece of cardstock to go over the spine area and to help adhere that more to the inside of your cover. So you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock, and these will measure 6.5 by 7. Now, typically I cut these just ever so slightly short of the size of the album. But I actually found on this one, I don't think I need to do that. So if you do, then I would suggest going to 6 15/16. That way the cardstock that we're going to put down is not hanging out over the top of the cover. You want it to be in a line with the cover, top and bottom. Okay, so I'm going to show you on this piece here. What we're going to do is just secure this to the inside of the album. We're going to go out about 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side, and this will cover the whole area. So you see, we end up adding more security by adding this additional piece of cardstock. So let's go ahead and put this down. And usually I just do my best guesstimate of where to place it. I don't do anything to be exact. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to line this up to where it is 1 inch over on each side. As you can see here, 1 inch, 1 inch. And then I just move this up to the top of the album. I look at it, the top and the bottom, make sure it's not going over. This is super hard for me to see. Hope you can see that. Well, it's already down, so I'm going to go with it. But I actually think it looks good. So as you can see, it's right at the top, but it's not going over. Same down here on the bottom. It's right at the edge. I always like to go in and kind of just go like curve when I'm burnishing, just to get it to go the direction of the chipboard. And then burnish, burnish, burnish. Now that this is burnished, we're going to take our bone folder. We're going to find the edge of our chipboard here, and you can see by just looking here at the end. Put the tip of your bone folder there and kind of just start creasing that, and at the same time you're going to lift up your cover with the left hand. Okay, now don't push so hard that you put a hole in your cover. Nobody wants that. So just run that along and pull that up at the same time, and do the same with the other side of the spine. So normally we're doing this just for one spine, but we're going to be repeating that process down here as well. Actually, I fold over and fold down on my cover. Okay. Now if you fold that over, you see it stays right where it needs to be. Now we're going to repeat that process on the other side. I've already got my piece here. I'm going to line this up again, 1 inch on each side, just eyeballing it here, and then I kind of move my paper up to the top. This is so hard to do when I can't get over the project. Hold on. Okay. It's going down. And burnish. I'm going to take this and flip it around. It'll be easier this way. Take your bone folder, find the edge of the chipboard, start lifting and burnishing. We're making a crease there, defining our spine. And like I said, I usually fold mine over. I don't know, that gives me a thrill. And repeat that on the other side of the spine. Nice, nice. For these areas that are showing chipboard, I'm going to go ahead and cover them. And what I've been doing lately is really just cutting pieces to cover the areas that are shown. Typically, we end up putting pattern paper over these areas anyways. So why waste another piece of cardstock when I can just cut down the amount of cardstock I'm covering here? So that's what I've done, and I would suggest you do the same. It just will save a little bit of cardstock. Now I'm going to give you my measurements for what I'm using, but I highly suggest that you measure your own area, or if you don't want to do it this way, then just measure a piece of cardstock to go over it and hide this area. But remember, we are going to put pattern paper over this, so that's just really an additional layer you don't need. For the front inside on the left, I'm using a piece that's 1 3/4 by 7. For the center piece, I'm using one that is 5 by 7. And again, you may need to cut those down just a smidge, depending on how you did it the first time. And then on the back, this is, I don't know how this happened, but this one is a little bit less than 1 3/4, if you can see that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know how it happened on this one, but it is actually a little bit less than 1 3/4. And you can see it. That's why I suggest measuring yours, and then again by 7. It seems weird to me, but that's how it worked out. So for these, I am just going to use wet adhesive. Again, these will get covered. I'm just lining it up here with the edge of the cardstock that's wrapped around the edge. Lining it up, making sure that it goes along with the bottom of the other piece that I have there. So now our album is completely covered and we're ready to work on our hinges. But I want to remind you that our spine area here is 1.5 inches wide. So here is one of the hinges that we're going to be using for our spine. It is 6.5 inches tall. It has 3 pages on it, and there are 3/8 of an inch gusset in between the pages. I don't know why, I just really like that measurement. You could use 1/4 of an inch if you want, but I didn't know how much decorating I would be doing at this time, so I figured 3/8 was a good measurement to use. I also wanted my pages to lay flat, so I've added an additional 1/4 of an inch onto my hinges, so that will help them lay flat. So if you see here, we have a 1/4 of an inch extra for the hinge, and then we have our 1/2 inch hinge, and that is for each of the pages. What this ends up being is 3/4 inch wide when we get done with it, because today the way that I'm going to create our hinge for our binding system is without the wings. Typically when we do a hinge, we have a area of cardstock on each side. Well, I've decided to remove those and make it a nice clean look by using what you might call a wingless hinge. I know others have done this, it's just that I haven't done it before, so it is new to me, and I'm excited to be trying that out and can't wait to see how it looks. But I did want to explain the difference. Let's go ahead and create our hinge. You're going to need a piece of cardstock that measures 5 1/4 by 6 1/2. We're going to put the short side across the top and do some scoring. We're going to score at 1/4 of an inch, 3/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 7/8, 2 1/8, 2 5/8, 3 1/8, 3 3/8, 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/2, 5, and that's all the scoring that we need to do. Now I'm going to take this and turn it over to where the bumpy side is on the top. I'm going to use 3/8 inch score tape. You could use 1/2 inch tape, or you could even use wet adhesive. But I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive tape before doing any burnishing. So we have a 1/4 of an inch, we have 2 1/2 inches, and then another 1/4 of an inch. Right there is one hinge. So I'm going to add adhesive. It doesn't really matter how you do it. You could add it on the first two or the next two. I'll just do it on the next two. So we have a 1/4, a 1/2, and on the 1/2, I'm going to add adhesive here and adhesive on the 1/4. We have 3/8 of an inch spacing. That's our gusset. Then we have a fourth, a half, a fourth, our 3/8 inch gusset, a fourth, a half, and a fourth. So that's one way that you could do it. I'm going to go ahead and add this adhesive in between my score lines. I don't have any 1/2 inch score tape, or I would use that. Now we can go ahead and start putting our pieces together. So I've just removed the backing paper from my 1/2 inch and my 1/4 inch. What I'm going to do is fold these first two pieces over on top of those. Just like that. Easy peasy. And I'm going to repeat that same process, remove the backing. Where the 1/2 inch score line is next to the 1/2 inch adhesive, I'm going to fold over. I just found this is really easy to do it this way, because then we can go back and burnish our other score lines. So now that we have our piece, it looks like this. We can fold back onto that 1/4 of an inch score line and burnish. And if we want, while we're here, go ahead and fold on our 3/8 inch score line and burnish that. Okay, I forgot to do a step, but I'm going to tell you that now. And to do that, I'm going to finish folding on my score lines before I remove the backing on this last one. So we'll just come back to adding that together. So now I'm just folding and burnishing my score lines. Okay, when you are doing a wingless hinge, when we fold our area down onto the rest of the hinge and overlap that, as you can see here, there is just a slight bit that's hanging over. We want to cut that off all the way down. If you use this hinge with that on there, it's just going to impede how well and smoothly the hinge will turn. So this side we have glued down already, so I'm just going to fold this over and use my scissors to cut off the extra. Now you can cut off a little bit before we start putting it together, or you can do it like I do. So I think I'm just going to do the same on this side, but like I said, you could trim off a little bit in your trimmer before you even put it together. But I don't mind doing it like this. So I'm going to go ahead and take my backing off and fold this over. burnish. And now when I fold this back, you could see just ever so slightly it went over there. All right, so I'm going to again cut off the extra. Just try not to cut a hole into your hinge. I probably shouldn't be doing it this way. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fold on my 1/4 of an inch score line and burnish those down. Now our hinges are together and ready to be used. You could go ahead and add score tape if you want to the back side of these, or you could use wet adhesive. I think I'm going to go the route of wet adhesive, as that is a more permanent adhesion. So now we're going to add our hinge into our album, and I'm just going to show you how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. You can guess or however you do it. I like making tick marks. So I go at the top, I'm going to measure over 3/8 from the edge of my chipboard. 3/8 inch, make a tick mark from the edge of the chipboard here. I'm going to measure in 3/8, make a tick mark. Now I'm going to bring this along the side, and at 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to make a tick mark. I'm putting a 1/4 of an inch at the top and the bottom of my albums. And then I do the same on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and mark all of mine, and then I will be back. And we'll put the hinge down. Okay, let's give this a try. I'm going to add my adhesive to the back side of my hinge. Hope this turns out. I'm going to use my tick marks to place down my hinge. Okay, I've added my adhesive to the back side of this hinge, and I'm going to go ahead and put this one down. I do like to check it to make sure it looks fairly even at the top and the bottom. That looks good, actually. And there you have it, folks. Our album cover is all ready for decorating and pages, and I can't wait to continue this project with you. Don't forget that there is a pre-order special going on right now. If you are going to follow me in my next project, where we are creating a shorts gatefold mini album, it will mirror this card design that I already shared with you. I'll have this linked in the description box in case you missed that video. And the cut files to create this and includes the cutting guide for this project is at a special price until I start making the actual inside pages. So I'll have all that information linked down below for you. And if not, you can certainly go ahead and use this for any craft that you're making today. So thanks for joining me, everyone, and I'll see you next time.